Hi guys, today's video will be about how to prepare for that interview. In the previous video that we did, I spoke about how to design your CV and how to give you the best chance to get into the interview room. So this video is going to just give you 3 tips on how to prepare for that interview. Most of us are terrified of interviews. They are uncomfortable spaces because you have a panel sitting there and waiting to see how well you are equipped to take on the post that is being advertised. So I wouldn't advise anybody to go into an interview room and just wing it. You have to prepare. So this video, I'm just going to speak to 3 elements of that preparation, and then you can use that as part of your arsenal when you go to these interviews. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Lovely to have you here. We discuss all things that will help you become a bigger and better teacher and school leader. So I'm going to dive straight into those 3 tips on interview preparation after this. Right, the first tip that I'm going to give you is that you need to prepare very well for the interview. You need to go back to the job advert, because the job advert will be a summary of the job that you're applying for. And then you go to the actual job description. If you have a copy of that, then just ensure that you know exactly what the key responsibility areas are, what skills are required, and what experiences you need. Okay, you need to know that like the back of your hand. And then once you have that information, you also have to start practicing how you are going to demonstrate that you know the knowledge that is required, that you understand the responsibilities and the duties of the job, and that you know which competencies in terms of your soft skills will be required for the job as well. Then it all comes down to practicing how you are going to demonstrate your expertise so that the interview panel can be blown away by what you have to offer. Right? Then the second tip is that you need to start preparing possible questions. So you can design questions based on the various responsibilities that you see in the ad and in your job description. Look at what the competencies are and what skills you need, and then think of possible questions that the panel can ask you. That's not too difficult because you are currently, I suppose, in that field anyway. You are teaching already, or you are leading a department, or you're a deputy principal, and so you have the experience. All you now have to do is match whatever knowledge you have and whatever experience you have to what the job that you're applying for will be asking for in the advertisement. Okay? I would advise you to use what they call the STAR method for interviews. STAR is an acronym that stands for situation, the S, T is for task, A is for actions, and R is for results. In other words, you'll sketch the situation, the S. You'll say what the context is, what happened, what you are supposed to do, what problem you are supposed to solve, what project you are supposed to start, and so forth. Okay? The T stands for the actual tasks. In other words, what do you intend doing so that you can either resolve whatever problem you have or introduce your initiative or help people in a particular area. And then the A will be the actual actions that you take. In other words, what have you done? How did you do it? And then the R stands for results. In other words, the impact or the outcome of your actions when you were faced with that particular scenario. Okay? I would also advise you to look at, use the acronym WHO. WHO. In other words, when you're confronted with a situation, when you're given a scenario and you have to present a case for that scenario, then you can also use the method of saying, What was the context? What was the issue? What was the scenario? What was the situation? Then you give all the detail. How did you go about resolving or changing whatever you were confronted with? And then the O is, what is the outcome? So that you have to do with most of the responsibilities and duties, I think, so that you are not stumped when you come into the interview room. You've done some preparatory work and you know how to respond. You will never be able to fully prepare for the questions, right? But at least you'll know that you have a basket of tools that you can pull out at any time. So if a question comes up, whether the question is about interpersonal relationships, whether it's about conflict, whether it's about how you're going to analyze the results, or how you're going to use data to understand where the school is and what you're supposed to do, you would have thought about it already because you are doing that in your current job. So it's just a matter of writing that down. You have to write it down because in most cases we are thinking up things in our head and it sounds like it makes sense. But only when you see it on paper you can see where the gaps are. The other advantage of writing things down is that you get some clarity about the way you are thinking about an issue. Okay, because in our heads, everything may sound so perfect. We know what we want to say. But when you are in a pressured situation like an interview, you will be amazed how your language will just dry up, your vocabulary will disappear, and the stress will just get the better of you. But if you write those things down and you get a chance to expand your vocabulary, look at the words you are using, and you then practice saying what you've written down, then it means you've not only thought about the question, you've also written it down so you know exactly what your response looks like, and then you practice how you are going to say that. You know, you must be speaking to somebody, so you can rehearse. You can stand in your, in front of your mirror and rehearse. You can tell your friends if they are interested. You can ask your children to help you, and then just repeat the response you would have given. That will help you to get rid of all that artificial way of talking. It will get rid of all that stilted, unnatural ways of stating something, because you've already digested the information and you've already packaged that information in a way where you can have a conversation. The interview is really a conversation that you are having, but the conversation is specific. The conversation is focused because you will be presented with a number of scenarios. You will be presented with questions, right? Most of the questions will be what they call behavioral type questions. So your panel wants to assess how you would respond. What is your behavior like? What soft skills are you going to apply? They are really testing your emotional intelligence as well. So it's not about just blurting out facts and sounding intelligent. You won't really get questions asking you, explain what the Schools Act is, explain what CAPS is, explain what IQM is. There would be an assumption that through your answer, the panel will be able to detect whether you understand the legal framework, for example, and whether you understand the policies and the programs and everything else that teachers must know or that leaders must know. Your task is to demonstrate that you know exactly what you're talking about. So in order to do that well, I'm suggesting that you do plan well, that you write down your answer, that you then listen to yourself speaking that answer so that you can start feeling comfortable about hearing yourself speak and understanding what you're saying. Okay. one of the interesting things is we don't always know what we sound like. Okay, we think we know our voices, but it's a good thing if you record yourself, because once you record yourself, then you can hear what you sound like to other people. Okay, we hear a particular voice, but that is not the voice that others hear. So you need to play around with your voice, you need to play around with your language, so that whenever you're speaking about specific information, that you actually feel comfortable and that you're not going to fall apart and grapple and look for words during the interview. Okay, so preparation is key around writing out possible questions, writing out your responses, and then practicing or rehearsing those questions. Okay, then the last tip for this session or this interview that I want to speak about is that you need to prepare yourself emotionally for the interview as well. Remember, you are now selected from a few hundreds of candidates to come to the interview. So you'll be about 5 candidates that have been selected. Now, you need to bear in mind that you and 4 or more people are competing for the same post. And all of you probably have the same skills, the same competencies, and the same level or degree of knowledge. So all of you stand an equal chance of getting that particular post. Now, the emotional preparation is about the fact that you need to know that if you don't get that post, then it's not the end of the world. You would have given it your best shot. You would have given all the information, and you would have tried to explain or show your selection panel that you have the ability to fulfill all the roles and the responsibilities that the post requires. So if you don't get it, it has nothing to do with your competence. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether you lack certain knowledge or whatever. It really just means that another candidate has probably impressed the panel more than you did, and that person lifted in the interview. So that is what you need to bear in mind. And then you take that experience, if you were unsuccessful, and you say, interesting, exciting, now I'm going to be even more prepared when I go to the next interview. And you use the learnings or the experience of that interview, and you help it to sharpen the way you respond in interviews. I know what I'm talking about, because I also went for interviews, and in many cases I didn't get the job. So I couldn't come back and beat myself over the head and say, Sharon, you just don't have it. You just don't have what it takes. No. That's not what we're going to do. We know our level of competence. We know that we will only apply for jobs that we know we qualify for. So if we don't get the post, it's because somebody else was better than us, and the interview selection panel, when they make their decision based on an impartial process where they look at what the CV said, what you did during the interview, and they used that information to make their final choice, then we have to accept that decision. Okay? So those are the 3 tips that I thought, let me just summarize the fact that you need to prepare very well. So you need to know the job advert, you need to know the job description, and then you need to prepare questions based on the information in the job. Take the questions that you've compiled, that you've designed, and then you practice responding to those questions so that you can help yourself relax more and become more comfortable when you eventually go into the interview room. Then the last point that I stressed is ensure that you do not become an emotional wreck should you not be successful in the interview. So that's the end of our video for today. For those of you, if you feel that this was useful, then do give us a like. And if you would like to watch more videos like this, then I would like you to consider subscribing to the School Corridor channel so that we can grow together. And then on that note, I just want to say, continue flying around the corridors and keep making magic in all the spaces that you find yourself. Cheerio.